Hi, everybody. We have on our panel Sean Elliott, It's in the Blood, Christina Rose, How Do You Write a Joe Schermann Song, and Blayne Weaver, The 6-Month Rule. And as I was sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Applause. As I was stalking or researching these actors, I was inspired by the title of Blayne's movie, The 6-Month Rule. Let's start with what rules would you, as an indie actor, adhere to?
As an indie actor, that's a good question. I think one of the things that's really interesting about this business, the entertainment business, all told, is that there's no direct path. You know, like nobody has the same story on how they got, you know, to any level of success, or, you know, whether you're in front of the camera or behind it. But I feel like for me, when I was younger, I would do, you know, any work that came my way, and I would, you know, be very happy to do it and just to get my face out there and practice. And I think at a certain point, that's an important thing to do. But then there's also a point, so I have a rule now where I won't do anything if I feel like I won't want to stand by it. So, like, that's the big question. Like, when you read the script or when you talk to the director or whatever, it's like, is this something that at the end of the day, a year from now, I'm going to be at the Phoenix Film Festival and I'm going to be up here talking about it. Am I going to feel good about that, or am I going to be like, at least there's free beer? You know what I mean? I don't know, that's a rule.
All right. Christina, what's your rules?
Yeah, I think my number one rule as an actor is early is on time. I never show up late to an audition or on set. Being professional is extremely important. And a lot of the people that you work with, if they like working with you, they'll work with you again, or they'll recommend you to one of their filmmaker friends. So it's extremely important to know your stuff as soon as you're on set, know what you're doing, be professional, and be prepared, and don't be late. Because it puts everybody behind, it puts the whole schedule behind, and it doesn't look good, and they won't call you back.
I'm wondering if, with the way the growth of the indie film market is, with digital filmmaking in the last 10 years, is indie film now mainstream as an actor?
To an extent. I think they're considering some like Sundance films, indie films that are on this huge budget with all these stars and names, and it's hard for us, you know, that aren't as big of names to sometimes get roles in those films. So I think that there are actors that really break into the Hollywood market through this and get, like, the girl from, you know, like Crazy and Another Earth, and now they're working with big stars. So I think, and Blayne's a name up here. So, so yeah, I mean, there's something about being a name, and I think that's kind of what we're looking towards in a way in order to make the big bucks someday and to work with the other stars, you know. So it's hard as an indie actor, but I think it's definitely possible. Keep working, you never know which one's going to be your hit.
Anybody else want to comment on their indie experience?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it's my first instinct was to be like, yeah, it's exactly, you know, it's happening right now. Like, you look at the Sundance lineup this year, a lot of those movies were made for under $50,000, you know. But I think it's disingenuous to say that those actors have made it. You know, like what did the Blair Witch actors get from that? You know, where did they go from that? You know, I feel like there is still a delineation, you know, between micro budget and small budget and, you know, movie star budget. Like, there's a lot of great independent film right now that has really huge, awesome talent who is coming to the independent world to find good projects. And that is definitely a thing. You can definitely, and I think everybody on this panel, certainly working in independent film as we do now, would, if the table changed and we were doing the Battleship movie or whatever is coming out, we would still come back to indie to find good projects, to legitimize the career, to do great work. But I think there still is a difference between the movie starring Blayne Weaver and the movie starring, you know, Gene Hackman. You know?
All three of you have been heavily involved in steering your project. So one way an actor can get their work out there is to just do it yourself. Christina, now as a producer and as the actress, was there any friction between the two parts of you?
I really found a way to separate all three. There were, you know, when I was focusing on my character, when I was focusing on Evie, it was all about Evie. It was about my lines, it was about my backstory, who I was working with. And then when I was with Gary and Susie and discussing producer things that we needed to figure out how to, raise money for the film and market the film, it was all focused on producing, and they were a wonderful team to collaborate with. We had amazing people with the entire creative team, so we couldn't have done that film if everybody wasn't wearing like 10 different hats, because everybody was. You were acting, singing, producing, writing, everybody did something in that film, so it was a great group of people to work with. And then as a choreographer, same thing, I would lock myself in my room, in my apartment, I'd be doing my dance steps in my tiny apartment in New York City and hoping that it would work for all the 10 dancers we were working with. So I was able to separate it. But I think the coolest thing for me about wearing those hats was Schermann Song was the first film that I helped produce, and I got a bug for it. So I will be producing another film this summer, and it's something that as an actor, I found this, wow, I can actually help create work for myself. And I'm actually co-writing a script now too. So we really do need to create work for ourselves and put the control in our own hands, because like you said, there's a lot of films that can be made nowadays, and if you really believe in yourself and the people you're working with and trust the people you're working with, then you can do amazing things.
Okay, and Blayne, I'm looking at my notes here. I think you lost a page, but You
lost my page?
I lost your page. Sorry, dude. But no, I have you as the actor, but I know you were a writer too?
I am.
Right, I thought so, okay. I'm going off of memory here.
Yes, I wrote, directed, and starred in 6-month role. There is a limit to what you can do on your own, and you need other voices, and you need other, artists around you that can help, and sometimes take off the producer, whatever you need taken off of your shoulders. They can. My assistant director is here, Connie Hoy, who is also like a producer extraordinaire in her own right. But on my film was part of this brain trust that we had between Connie and my director of photography and my editor, and they would all kind of be my conscience. And sometimes we wouldn't agree, but they're all there for a reason, to make the movie the best thing it can possibly be. I think that's when you're wearing multiple hats as an actor, you gotta trust that if you're blowing it, somebody's gonna tell you for the right reason.
This seems to me to be the way of the indie actor. You really have to make your own breaks. Is this part of our new movement of the indie actor, or has this always been like this? Where you were the producer and the writer and
I think in a way it's always been like this, in a way. But the business has changed a lot, and the fact is we just have more power than we used to. And like we can reach out to, thousands of people on social media that, 10 years ago, first of all, we wouldn't have had access, but they wouldn't have given a damn, It's like, it's really exciting to be able to reach out directly to the people that care about you, and you can pull in people for your movie. I mean, certainly 6-month rule would not be where it is right now if it wasn't right now. If I wasn't able to reach out to people and be like, if you want to follow this, if you want to be in on this, come along. But it's never been easy. It's not to discount any actors that came before. It's always been a bear, and you have to fight your fight. But we have a lot more power to fight now.
Yeah, and whether it's changed a lot, whether it's been happening before or happening now, I just think it's extremely important for actors, because you become a better actor when you start producing and writing. You start to learn how characters are developed. You start to learn how a film is put together, and you know where your place is in that film. And honestly, I have become a better actor the more I've produced and started writing. It's incredible. I think it's key. All you actors out there, start learning how to write and produce and do other things, because it will help you out.
Social media now plays a huge part in promoting. How have each of you used social media to promote yourselves as an actor? So we're going to separate it as an actor and then as your film.
I have a Facebook fan page that I use, and I basically put everything that I'm doing. And the thing is, I'm actually connecting with people. I think quality versus quantity. I don't care if I have 50 million people following my Facebook page. If I've connected with like the 900 that are on there, and I have either met them at a film festival and they're like, oh, I love your work, I want to follow you, then I connect with them. And I think with social media in general, if you're using Twitter, it's not just, oh, I'm going to be in this commercial or I'm in this theater show. Connect with people, become friends with people, because people work with who they like and who they believe in and trust in. So using social media is about making those connections, not just saying, hi, here I am, because nobody cares if they don't actually care about you. And also, actors have a website. It's so important now. Make sure you have a website that people can find you easily, find your reel, find what you're doing, and casting directors even look there, so it's important.
You guys want to elaborate?
Yeah, that was that was really well said. Yeah, I feel like it's personal. You know, I feel like it's about making it personal. Like we've experimented with stuff in a couple of different movies of trying to figure out, you know, what works in the social media things. And the fact is, it just seems like people would rather follow a person than they would a movie. So then you become not just an actor, but at that moment, I'm Blayne Weaver of 6 Month Rule, and next year I'll be Blayne Weaver of Favor, and then, you know, and it's like you're all, we did a movie together.
We did do a movie together with this one here, Paul Osborne, who directed it. Official Rejection, anybody?
But I think it's about what we said earlier about, or what I said earlier about not doing something that you're not ready to fight for, because like if I was Kevin Costner, part of my deal would be to go on Letterman and do an interview plugging the movie, whether I like the movie or not. That's part of the deal. On this level, it's just stupid not to. It's like that somebody has made a bet on you. Like, you're not really putting butts in the seats. Like, you're there because you're a good actor and you got the part. And if you're not doing everything you possibly can to push that project, then you're not doing anything for your acting career. If you're just waiting for somebody to hand you a hit movie or something, that's just, I just think it's silly. I mean, it happens all the time. We see it happen all the time. It's annoying. I think it's very important to fight for your work and to get it out there and to, you know, be. And then, by the way, I think it really helps your castability. You know, if you are your own kind of machine, Christine certainly is. Like, you see her followers and stuff like that, and it's like, all right, she's got a fan base. That helps. It's like, all right, that makes it easier to cast the talent. You know.
And I think when it comes to promoting your film, that comes back to your team. I think that's a team effort. Especially for How Do You Write a Joe Schermann Song, all of us, we raised money on Kickstarter, we were making videos, singing, you know, we were collaborating on that. Gary King is awesome with collaborating with everybody that he works with, so we had a really good time, but we could not have made this movie or promoted on Twitter or Facebook without everybody. So everybody's posting on their Facebook page. Everybody's on Twitter talking about the film. That's how you get the film out there into your network and spread the word with your team.
David Mamet wrote a book many years ago called True and False, Heresy for the Modern Actor, and put out some pretty tough statements about just go do it. Don't worry about training.
I say that you always stay in class. I think you're always trying to improve yourself, and I'm sure with the same as them, I work with coaches, I take classes. I'm in New York City now, but I graduated with my BFA in musical theater performance, so I went to college for this. And initially I was doing a lot of musical theater, and that's why I went to New York, and I didn't have any film classes at my college, so all of that training happened in New York. There were all these professional on-camera classes you could take for commercials, voiceover, anything, meeting casting directors. So I'm constantly, it's a good way to network as well. I'm constantly trying to improve myself. I think every time you're on set, you're learning. So whether it's a student film, you know, the more you're in front of the camera, you know, it's important to just get out there and continue to improve yourself. But I would never suggest to somebody, okay, you're awesome, stop taking class. And even if that's just having a coach or somebody that's constantly kind of putting you in your place, like, you're not as awesome as you think you are, because we can always be better.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? You know something that always kind of gets me a little bit. I'm gonna rant for a second, but it always bugs me when people like talk about actors like it's like you made it. You know, congratulations. You've got the stamp of professionalism. We're artists. You know, it's like, and if you're an actor and you don't look at it like that, then I don't really have much time for you, anyways. But you know, artists who aren't doing something are not artists anymore. They've stopped being that. So, you know, I think Christina's absolutely right. Being on set is the most useful thing in the world, but, you know, so is being on stage, and so is, you know, doing any of the other things. It's like I've come from some classical training, and, you know, some of it I've been great at, some of it I haven't, and I keep working at it, because the key is to be good, not just to be famous, right? Right? I don't know.
No, absolutely. And also read books too. I've learned a lot from books. There's this really great book called The Power of the Actor by Ivana Chubbuck. So that's a good book. And The Tao of Show Business. It just, everything helps. There's always a tool that you can use.
Each of you have had theater background. How important is it to you as a film actor? Because this is another one of these debates. I've heard directors say, oh, theater actors, they can't take it down. They can't bring it down for film. I disagree personally, but I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
when you're on stage, you're learning lines, you're learning how to act, you're learning how to interact with people and work with other actors. How can that not help you on a film set? I think it's absolutely important for you to do any type of work that you can do, if it's theater or if it is on camera. I would definitely say, you know, I did start in theater. I started in musical theater, so I was singing, dancing, and acting. I was doing long stretches of all of that on stage, and it builds a stamina, it builds a professionalism, you know, showing up on time. So I think absolutely, I would never say, don't do plays, you know, just stick to on camera. I think they all go hand in hand, and in my opinion, acting is acting, and truth is truth within acting, as long as you're bringing the truth to the character.
Yeah, I don't see how it could actually be detrimental in any way. Like, I guess, you know, there are different techniques. Like, it's different being on a movie set than it is being on a TV set. You know, it's like there are different paces. There's different, you know, little technical things, which is, again, why it's really great to be on any set you can possibly be on, you know. But yeah, I think that's silly. I think training, being up here, practicing, you know, learning lines and having the confidence to get up on stage and do a 3-hour play, that's not going to hurt you. You know?
Yep. And I will say, with that said, if you have done theater and only theater and you want to go do a film, yeah, you should take some on-camera classes, because it is very different to be in front of the camera. They're two different techniques, but like I said, bringing the truth to the character is in both. But yes, if you only do theater, make sure you take some on-camera classes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That was what I was going to say was, I forgot about. But I've worked with lots of people who've been theatrically trained and like really great actors, and then I've worked with people who've never stepped on a stage and just have instincts and are going with it. Like me personally, the amount of time I've spent training in theater, I'd like to think that I've learned this. I'm really good at it. You know, but sometimes it's just not somebody's path, and they're just an amazing presence on screen.
Let's talk about finding work.
No.
How do we find work?
Everybody casting out there? I depend on my agent in some ways, and I depend on myself in a lot of ways. And I think for theater and musical theater, I had a lot easier time going to open calls and auditioning. I'm in New York City, so we have open calls all the time for all kinds of different musical theater shows. So I was booking a lot of work on my own, and then when I got to a certain point and I got my agent, then I was booking even bigger jobs. So I think even when you have an agent, if you sit back and wait for them to call, you're not going to work a lot, you know, because they're not fighting for you as hard as you're going to fight for yourself. So yeah, it's awesome to have an agent, and they do good things for you if you have a good agent, but never stop working for yourself. Keep connecting with people. The most work I've ever gotten is because I've worked with somebody who has wanted to work with me again or recommended me to somebody else. So like I said, it's who you like to work with, you work with, and that's true.
Yeah, it's, you know, an agent isn't, you know, you want to think that you're going to get the agent, that you're going to get all the great auditions, and, you know, you're going to have the shot at the great parts, and it's just not really true. I mean, I guess sometimes it is. Like, I certainly know people who've booked huge jobs and gone off to do these amazing projects, but mostly you audition for the third guy from the left who, you know, said, "What are you doing?" And then, you know, get out of Clooney's way. That's your job. One of the weirdest feelings in the world is when you look at an agent and you see him looking at you with money signs in his eyes. It's like he just sees a product, but he thinks he can make money off this. Awesome. I feel kind of cheap. You know what I mean? But I feel like it's all about the relationships. And I mean, I like the manager talent relationship. I don't have one at this moment because it's a very special relationship. It's got to be perfect because they're all up in your business.
Yeah, I think it's all about the relationship too. I have 3 different agents. You know, one for print, one for commercial, and one for legit. So those are 3 different relationships. And I find some work harder for me than others. And I sometimes think it's my own fault. I'm actually learning right now. You know, I have a couple new agents and I'm like, wow, I really need to take this person out to lunch and get to know them and become best friends with them, basically. Because they're gonna fight harder for you the closer you are with them. Because when you get to these big agencies, you're just a number in a way. You know, they can actually forget about you. I check in with my agents, I call them every so often. But it is a lot about a relationship. And as far as a manager, I don't have one right now. I thought about it, and I don't really want to give 15% of everything right now. I don't think it's the right time for me to give, because I get a lot of work on my own, as I'm saying. And if you have a manager, everything you do, they get 15%. With your agent, they get 10% of the work they get you. Okay, so if you're not ready for a manager, man, don't get one, because you're gonna be paying, but you're gonna get an awesome job, and then you're gonna have to pay them just for them to be like, oh, cool, good job. So, yeah.
I think what's really great about what we're doing and where it is right now is making your own stuff and getting it out there. And it's like we're starring in stuff that we actually have our hands in and are making it happen. And it doesn't hurt the agent's job. It's like, I freaking called my agent the other day. I'm like, you know, I'm in a movie, right? You know, the movie, the trailers are coming out. Here's the trailer. Oh, this is great. Yeah, you're useless.
We are being recorded, you do.
Yeah.
We love our agents.
They're not my Facebook friends.
Since we're on the search for new agents, what tools do you have in your toolbox, in your favorites for searching for work?
I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be professional, connect with the directors and the producers that are on that set. I just did a commercial, and the director really liked my work and called me in the next week to do another job. So I get a lot of my work because people like working with me, and I really find that I've been in New York for 6 years. I started with one company. I went in for a modeling job for a company called Animated Storyboards. I've been working with them for 5 years now. They call me in for modeling, motion capture I do for them, but it was because they kept calling me back and I was always on time, and they've expressed this to me, that you are very professional and I'm the one that they call first. So they've been almost like a part-time job for me in New York City, which is amazing. Now, other things you can do are, you know, backstage, or stay away from Craigslist. That can be sketchy. Make sure you know who you're looking at castings. You know, film festivals, you meet a lot of people, networking, Twitter. I've booked work, you know, just from connecting with filmmakers on Twitter. And before, when I was doing musical theater, it was a lot of backstage and open calls. They would be listed all the time, and it depends on where you live. You know, I'm not sure what Arizona has to offer, but I'm sure there's something with a list of casting calls. But like I said, make sure you know who these people are, do your research on them. You don't want to end up in some sketchy situation. So, but man, you can, if you work with people and they like you, they'll work with you again. So that's important.
Yeah, I think that would be my answer. You know, as far as bag of tricks or whatever it's relationships. It's relationships, and I did last year. I was in 5 independent films, and one of them I auditioned for. Everything else was just a phone call from somebody who I've worked with before who wants to do it again, and she's right. Like, you show up on time, you do your job, you knock it out of the park when you get this chance to. You know, people want to work with that. People don't want to have a bad set. They don't want to have a stressed out, you know, director. And they, especially when you're doing an independent movie, they don't have the time or the money for it. So if you are an asset, somebody that's not only bringing the talent, but the professionalism, and, you know, maybe even, you know, some followers on Twitter, you're an asset. And that's what you need to try to be for any director who will take a chance on you.
I just want to give one last example. Just even the film that I'm in right now, How Do You Write a Joe Schermann Song. The reason I'm in that movie is because I had worked with the director Gary King previously. He was a director for hire, and I was cast as the lead, and it was a zombie comedy called Death of the Dead. And so we worked on that together, and we worked very well together. Found out he was doing a musical, he found out I had been on Broadway, and then it was perfect. We ended up working on How Do You Write a Joe Schermann Song, and you know, we plan to work together again in the future. So, and he's been a key role in my film career, and I can't thank him enough for everything he's done. But I'm telling you, it's people that you like to work with. I love working with him, he loves working with me. Boom, you got work for the next, you know, sorry about that. You got work for the next couple of years, you know, so I just wanted to add that.
What would you tell your novice self? What would you tell that person then that you know now?
One thing I can think of is really believe in yourself and stop judging yourself and stop being so hard on yourself, because nobody's perfect. Even the superstars aren't perfect. You know, they do more than one take sometimes.
Sometimes.
And that goes back to the confidence. I feel like I have come as far as I have now because I have learned how to let things go. I don't think about my last audition anymore. I used to cry over auditions. I didn't get that, and I would go home and I would cry, and I suck, you should stop. And, you know, but then you go to your next audition and you get another one. So if you don't get rejected, you're never gonna actually get the job, and we all get rejected because you're not right for every role. So believe in yourself and stop judging yourself. We got enough people judging us. We don't need to judge ourselves.
That's really true. Mine would just be get in the game, you know, get out there. And like every breakthrough that I've had in my career has been me finally doing something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. Like I finally wrote that script and I finally, you know, formed that LLC for that company. And just do it. Just get in the game. Like sitting back and waiting for the appropriate time, that's what you'll regret. Right. This was a real breakthrough for me, was seeing really good actors have to be cut, you know, have to be edited, you know, to make their performance sing. With great actors, they're doing great jobs, you know, and I got to see that because, you know, I sat in this director's chair, but it's everybody you love, everybody you admire, every actor that you want to be has to be cut so they don't look silly when they, you know, look like this, or, you know, they're getting the same treatment that you're getting, and I think it's really important to not, like you say, you gotta let that stuff go, because every actor on that set is getting the same treatment that you're getting, of like finding the best way to put your performance on screen.
I'm going to jump back and ask about technique. Sometimes folks are married to certain techniques, like Live and Die by Meisner or the method, or do any of you have any preferences on techniques or books that just did it for you?
Yeah, I mentioned before The Power of the Actor by Ivana Chubbuck, and I was in LA and I actually went to one of her classes, which was great. I think I have a couple different coaches. I do like the method. I use the method a lot, but I feel like I combine with other, you know, techniques that I've learned. So, I don't know. I have my own. You know, I've come to find what works for me, and that's throughout, you know, the 6 years I've been in New York, and I think that's the key to what works for you. You know, because the method might work for somebody, but it might not work for you. So as you're learning these different techniques, you incorporate what works for you, and you might be combining some, you might be using one, but I think it's hard to say when it comes to technique.
It's like mixed martial arts, right?
Yeah. I think it's hard to be married to one, you know?
It's detrimental to be married to one.
Yeah.
Like if you can...
Especially because the method could work on
theory,
one moment and then not work the next moment.
My theory is always like, do whatever it takes to get you there. You know, I'll have patience, you know, all day long if you want to go sit in your trailer and cry, or you want to, do a little role play beforehand. You want to do any of that? I love it, you know, but just don't let it take over. You know, don't let it take over the day. You better knock it out of the park if you do, you know, if you take 20, 30 minutes from the set to do something, take it serious, because that's like, you're slowing down the machine. It better be good. But if it's good, you can do whatever you want to do, you know, but don't go to the Maharaja for every single scene, you know what I'm saying?
And I just think it's so important to do, you know, the backstory of your character. Like, maybe the character is 40 years old and that's where the film starts, but you need to know what you were doing when you were 5 years old, and who your parents were, and who your sister and your brother were. That's just so important when it comes to improvising on set and everything else. Just really know your character. It's about letting it go, no matter how much backstory you've done, no matter how much you know your character. It's like being in that moment right now and interacting with the other, you know, actor that you're working with, and being in that moment. So letting it go, let it go.
That's movies, you know, and that's what's so exciting about it, you know. It's like that moment when you're on screen, that's what it's about. Being aware and listening and ready for anything. And the best actors I've ever seen, the ones that I try to emulate, are the ones who do something no one ever thought that they would do, because they're in the moment. And it's not, you know, them being, you know, movie star, it's them being that character at this moment. And that's the stuff that's just like, you can learn from that.
Yeah.
But you got to be paying attention. You can't be thinking about your backstory and, you know, all that stuff. You got to know that stuff, put it away, and then do your job.
Yeah, it's not them making a choice on this line, I'm going to scratch my head. It's just that character happened to, like, in the moment you were like, that's what your character did. So, absolutely.
Jumping back to the business of show business, what business skills do you recommend actors have to be a business person of their own?
Here's the toughest thing, I think, for an actor. I think because we want to do a project that we believe in and be directed and be, you know, led, and then get to be vulnerable and do, you know, something real and, you know, real. pushing other people to do stuff is not really, it's not part of the nature, you know? It's like, but like being annoying and being that guy that calls and 50 times to make sure something happens, or like is just the producer guy. I mean, it's important in the actor's career as well as it is in producing a movie, you know? Follow up, get the phone numbers, do the, you know, the legwork of stuff that, you know, none of us are actors because we want to be making phone calls, you know, and following up on things, but it's important.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of actors don't think of this as a business, and that's why they're not as successful. I've always thought of myself as a product. You know, as hard as that may sound, like I am selling myself. You know, what do I have to sell? My website markets my strengths, you know. I put the weaknesses back there. So,
you don't
yeah.
have any weaknesses.
But yeah, I mean, it's completely a business. Learn as much about the business as you can. Read books, you know. I'm reading an awesome rom-com book right now. Can't remember the title of it, but it's awesome. And you know, that's just I'm co-writing, so I'm learning how to do that, and it all goes together. So read books on producing. Even if you don't want to be a producer, read a book on producing. So it's a business. That's just the key. And I can't give you exactly what tools that is. It's a mindset, and it's figuring out how to make it a business for yourself, and seeing yourself as an actor, as a product, and marketing yourself in the best way possible. Website, etc.
Well, really
Thank you.
appreciate
Thanks
your
for
time.
coming.
Enjoy the festival. Thank you very much.